1019fm.com. Here's what's happening.
Good afternoon. I am Vanessa Thomas with the 12 o'clock news on the street 919 FM and online Facebook and YouTube, sponsored by the Sea Champion. In the headlines, government seeks to increase the country's borrowing ceiling under the Development Loans Act. Central Bank launches 5-year strategic plan coming out of the pandemic. Energy Minister says the ministry is not going to allow gas station owners to create a cartel and gouge out the eye of the consumer. And news outside of Trinidad and Tobago, Haiti's president assassinated in home invasion. His wife, the First Lady, also dies from injuries at hospital. And now the news in detail. Government is seeking to increase the country's borrowing ceiling under the Development Loans Act for the third time in just over 5 years. According to Finance Minister Com Imbert, government is seeking to get an additional $10 billion as the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic continues. Here, the Finance Minister explains.
We are increasing it from $55,000 million to $65,000 million. This measure has become necessary because of the deficit financing that has taken place in 2020 as a consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic and the worldwide recession and issues with respect to revenue.
Meanwhile, independent and opposition senators are sounding a warning against this. Opposition Senator Wade Mark says the issue is not just about what he calls government's insatiable appetite for borrowing, but more so how the country is going to repay this loan with an economy on lockdown and no new revenue streams.
This government, by its reckless borrowing, Madam President, is indebting the future generations of this country, and was destroying the very industries and sectors needed to free them from this debt trap. Madam President, every time we borrow, somebody has to pay.
In other news, the Central Bank has launched its 5-year strategic plan for coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic. During the virtual launch yesterday, Governor Dr. Alvin Hilaire says COVID-19 will be around a bit longer. While the country's borders reopen on July 17th after more than a year of closure, Hilaire hopes for the best.
The best case scenario is that the virus could actually continue to be with us for at least the first 2 years of the new plan period. Now, we are hoping for the best, but we are planning for the worst, because with the situation now with variants, with problems with access and so forth, we want to be sure that we are on solid ground.
The Central Bank governor also noted that going forward, Trinidad and Tobago will not be out of the woods anytime soon. He said financially, we are on delicate grounds.
Delicate macroeconomic environment locally, and we know that one of the important ways of getting out of this is to have coordinated monetary, fiscal and structural policies on the macroeconomic level. So we will be keeping a big part of our influence in that area.
In more news, gas station owners will not be allowed to price gouge when the fuel industry is liberalized. Energy Minister Stuart Young gave the assurance during the debate to the Finance Bill 2021 in the Upper House on Tuesday. Earlier, opposition Senator Wade Mark warned that the liberalization of the fuel industry will result in higher fuel prices. However, Young sought to allay the fears of citizens. The minister assured the government is committed to protecting the motoring public and citizens from price gouging. He said government will simply not allow gas station owners to create a cartel and gouge out the eye of the consumer, so there is no need for the fear. International news now. Haiti's President Jovenel Moïse has been shot and killed in an attack at his home in the nation's capital, Port-au-Prince. The incident happened in the wee hours of this morning when gunmen stormed his private residence. His wife, who was also shot and was taken to hospital, has since reportedly died. Here's what's being reported.
Well, the latest information coming out of Haiti is, in fact, that the First Lady has died of her injuries. The First Lady, Martine Moïse. So that makes a double assassination, with her husband also being shot dead. What we know so far is that a gunman broke into the residency where the president was. This is at about 1 o'clock in the morning last night. These gunmen, nobody really knows who they are, but what they do know is that some were speaking Spanish and some were speaking English. They then opened fire on the president and on his wife. He was reported dead pretty soon after that, but apparently their son escaped unharmed from this attack.
Haiti's recent history has been plagued by coups, political instability and widespread gang violence. And that was the 12 o'clock news on the street, 919 FM, and online Facebook and YouTube, sponsored by the Sea Champion. Recapping the headlines, government seeks to increase the country's borrowing ceiling under the Development Loans Act. Central Bank launches 5-year strategic plan coming out of the pandemic. Energy Minister says the ministry is not going to allow gas station owners to create a cartel and gouge out the eye of the consumer. And news outside of Trinidad and Tobago, Haiti's president assassinated in home invasion. His wife, the First Lady, also dies from injuries at hospital. Stay tuned to the Street 919 FM. I am Vanessa Thomas. Do enjoy your afternoon and please be safe.
News from the street. 919fm.com.